Welcome, gents. Some minds are not built to be followed, they are built to lead in silence. If you're a Sigma male, chances are you've been called everything from mysterious to distant. People look at you like you're some kind of puzzle they can't solve. They poke, they prod, they label. But here's the truth they won't say out loud. You were never meant to be easily understood. You're wired differently. Your thoughts don't follow the straight line that most people are used to. You live on a wavelength that demands depth, not noise. You're not cold. You're just careful with your energy. You don't overshare. You observe, you listen, you take your time. And this throws people off. The world tries to make sense of you because it's uncomfortable around what it can't control. But understand this. Not being understood isn't a flaw. It's a sign that you're operating on a level most won't reach. You're not meant to shrink yourself to be accessible. You're meant to sharpen yourself until only those who see clearly can keep up. You are not here to entertain anyone's curiosity. You are here to build quietly, move intentionally, and let your presence speak without needing an explanation. So if you've ever felt out of place or wrongly judged, let that be proof of who you really are. A man whose mind was never made for the masses. Keep walking your path. The right ones will feel you, even if they never fully understand you. Let's begin, gents. Number one, you're not confusing, they're just too linear. Let's get this straight. Your mind isn't the problem. It's their limited lens that can't keep up. Most people operate like traffic lights. They need a green to go, a red to stop, and a clear set of instructions to feel safe. Their thinking is predictable. Straight line, A to B. Cause and effect, no questions asked. But you don't move that way. Your thoughts expand sideways. They double back. They dive into ideas that aren't on the surface. You don't take things at face value. You question everything, not to argue, but to truly understand. That alone sets you apart in a world that rewards obedience over depth. People try to pin you down with labels because they're used to quick answers. They want neat boxes and simple motivations. But your mind is more like a web than a straight road. It connects things no one else sees. It reads between the lines. It hears the silence in a loud room, and that unnerves them. You're not trying to be mysterious. You just don't hand out pieces of yourself to everyone. You know the difference between being open and being exposed. That's not being confusing. That's being wise. The truth is, you're not walking around trying to impress or explain yourself. You're paying attention, you're mapping out everything. You know who's real, who's performing, who's dangerous, and who's asleep. So when they say you're hard to read, take that as confirmation. It means you're not repeating the script they're used to. You're not simple, you're layered, you're not cold, you're careful, and you're not lost. You're just off their grid. Keep thinking the way you do. Keep noticing what others miss. Let them call it confusing. That's just proof they were never built to understand someone like you. Number two, you're not hiding, you're choosing who gets access. There's a big difference between being private and being scared. And let's be clear, you're not afraid of people, you're just selective. You know that not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life, so while others are constantly broadcasting every detail, you stay quiet. Not because you're hiding, but because you know the value of silence. There's no mystery here. You're not trying to play hard to get. You're not performing. You simply understand that trust is earned, not handed out like candy. Your boundaries are not walls, they're filters. You're not pushing people away. You're watching who chooses to show up with patience, honesty, and respect. Still, people confuse your calm with coldness. They think your silence means you're hiding something, but it's not secrecy, it's discernment. You've seen what happens when the wrong people get access to your inner world. They drain, they take, they twist. And so, you stopped explaining, you stopped overgiving, you learned to protect what matters. You don't need to be seen to feel validated. You don't need to be heard to prove you're alive. You've mastered the ability to stay still while the world spins loud, and in that stillness you gain clarity. You see who's genuine and who's performing, who's curious and who's just nosy. Choosing who gets access is not weakness, it's strength, quiet strength, mature strength, the kind of strength that no one claps for, but everyone eventually respects. So if people don't get you, let them guess. If they call you distant, let them talk. Because while they chase attention, you're curating your space. You're building a life that's not for show, it's for peace. And that kind of life, that's not hiding, that's wisdom in motion. Number three, you speak in patterns, not paragraphs. You don't waste words, you never have. When you speak, there's weight behind it, intention, depth. But most people only hear the surface. They catch the words, maybe the tone, but they miss the rhythm underneath, the way your thoughts are threaded together like quiet patterns only a few can follow. You're not trying to impress anyone with big speeches or dramatic explanations. That's not your style. Your thoughts come in pulses, not noise. You drop insights like puzzle pieces and leave them there. If someone's sharp enough, they'll pick them up and see the bigger picture. If not, you let them keep guessing. It's not your job to teach people how to listen. What you say often means more than what it sounds like. There's always something under the surface, an idea tucked inside a pause, a message hidden in the way you shift direction mid-thought. It's not that you're cryptic, it's that you're deep. And the deeper you go, the fewer people can follow. Some think you're being vague or holding back, but the truth is, they're not equipped to hear you fully. They want loud and obvious. You offer subtle and sharp. You speak in layers. You express like a painter, not a salesman. Real communication isn't just about words. It's about connection. And you connect on a wavelength that doesn't care for small talk or shallow minds. You speak in patterns because you think in systems. You observe, process, and respond with precision. No fluff, no filler. And if they can't hear the rhythm behind what you're saying, that's fine. Your words weren't meant for everyone. Only the ones who listen with more than just their ears will truly get the message. Number 4, you're not an open book, you're a locked manuscript. And let's be honest, there's a reason for that. You've learned, sometimes the hard way, that people don't always read with the right intention. Some only flip through your pages to find flaws. They're not interested in your truth. They're just looking for something to twist, compare, or criticize. So no, you're not giving everyone a pass to your inner world. You've built yourself carefully. Every chapter has been written through experience, pain, growth, and self-reflection. And that kind of story isn't meant for casual readers. It's not light reading. It's the kind of manuscript that demands presence, attention, and respect. You've met people who were fascinated by your depth, but only until it got too real, too honest, too raw. And so now, before anyone gets close, you watch how they read. Do they ask thoughtful questions, or do they jump to conclusions? Do they sit with your silence, or do they rush to fill it? Do they read to connect or just to judge? You're not hiding, you're protecting, you're guarding what took years to build because you know the difference between curiosity and care. And you understand that being fully seen by the wrong person can leave you more alone than staying quiet ever could. You don't owe anyone access. You don't owe anyone an explanation. And you don't need to soften your truth just to be readable. Let them wonder, let them guess. The right ones will take their time, turn each page gently, and read you with the kind of attention that your story deserves. Number 5, your mind isn't a mirror, it's a maze. Most people look at others hoping to see some version of themselves, shared opinions, easy agreement, something familiar they can nod along with. They expect you to reflect their thinking, validate their beliefs, or at least play by the rules they're used to. But with you, they don't get reflection, they get complexity. And that complexity makes them uncomfortable. Your thoughts don't take the easy road. You turn things over. You explore what's underneath. You ask questions that don't have quick answers, and you're not afraid to sit with uncertainty. That alone separates you, because while others are rushing to be understood, you're busy dissecting the unseen, and that's why they get lost in conversation with you. It's not because you're unclear. It's because they came looking for a shortcut and found a labyrinth instead. You make people confront their own mental habits. You make them realize how little they've actually thought about the things they claim to know. You don't offer simple reflections. You offer challenges. And not everyone is ready for that. Some might call you difficult, distant, or even detached, but in reality, you just don't entertain surface-level talk. You live in the layers. You value substance over comfort. And most people aren't used to that kind of depth, let alone equipped for it. The truth is, your mind requires effort to navigate, but that's the beauty of it. Those who are lazy with thought will never get close. Those who are sincere, curious, and brave enough to enter the maze, you meet them there. And when you do, that connection is rare, powerful, and unforgettable because it's not built on reflection, it's built on discovery. Number 6, you live outside the algorithm. People don't know what to do with that. They're used to patterns, formulas, predictable behaviors that follow a script, smile here, react there, say what's expected, and move along. It makes them feel safe, like the world still makes sense. But you don't follow the usual programming. You don't perform, you observe. You move on instinct, not expectation. You're not interested in playing along just to be accepted. You've watched how people fall into routines without even realizing it. The same opinions, the same responses, the same predictable roles. But you'd rather sit in silence than say something that doesn't come from a real place. You'd rather pause than pretend. You don't broadcast your thoughts. You track patterns, notice gaps, and listen to what's not being said. While everyone else is rushing to speak, you're studying the space between their words. And that throws people off. They can't categorize you, so they label you distant. They can't read you, so they call you mysterious. But really, you're just not operating on their wavelength. You don't need approval to know you're on the right track. You trust your own data. Your life isn't a performance to be optimized for likes, reactions, or applause. You live with intention. You move with precision. Every decision is yours, and yours alone. People try to predict your next move. They want to fit you into a box because unpredictability makes them uncomfortable. But that's their fear, not your problem. You live outside the algorithm, and that's exactly where your power is. Number 7, you connect with minds, not masks. That's the line most people can't cross with you, and they feel it. You don't care about social polish. You're not moved by charm for the sake of charm. You see through it too fast. While everyone else is busy being impressed by appearances, you're already reading what's underneath. The energy, the intent, the silence between words. Shallow people can't hold your gaze for long. Not because you're intimidating, but because your eyes ask for something real. They're used to being admired, not examined. They rely on small talk and surface-level appeal. But you want to know what keeps a person up at night, what they think when no one's watching, what they're hiding under all that smooth talk. That's why most people don't last around you. They feel seen, and not in the way they like. They can't perform their usual roles. They can't hide behind pretty lies or recycled opinions. You don't respond to that. You withdraw mentally, sometimes even mid-conversation. You can feel when someone's wearing a mask, and it's not something you'll entertain. You're not hard to reach. You just require depth. You crave real connections, raw, unfiltered, mentally stimulating exchanges, conversations that make you pause, reflect, grow. You connect with people who can challenge your mind, not just echo it, and those people are rare. So let others call you intense or distant. Let them say you're hard to get to know. That's fine, because you're not here to build crowds. You're here to find real ones, the ones who speak in substance, not performance, the ones who take the mask off first and mean it. Number 8, you see behind the words, the smiles, the noise. That's your quiet superpower, and most people feel it even if they can't explain it. You're not just listening to what's being said. You're tuned into everything that isn't. The pauses, the contradictions, the words people stumble over or completely leave out. You're not focused on their performance. You're watching what leaks through the cracks. That's why people get uneasy around you, not because you're judging them, but because they sense they can't hide. Most folks are used to being half heard, half seen, and fully misunderstood. They're comfortable wearing masks and staying surface level. But when they're around you, that comfort starts to fade. You don't need anyone to spill their secrets. You feel the tension in their voice. You catch the shift in tone when the topic changes. You notice how often they smile without meaning it. And you don't call it out. You don't embarrass them, but you remember it. You file it away like a puzzle piece waiting to fit somewhere later. This kind of perception doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. You're not here to be entertained by facades. You want realness, not perfection, just honesty. And when you don't get it, you don't force it. You quietly step back, and that silence is louder than words. People sense it. They know you're not just in the room, you're reading it. You don't chase conversations, you scan for meaning, you don't react to noise, you wait for truth. That's why your presence feels intense, because most have never been seen that deeply before. You hear what others avoid saying. And in that quiet space where truth lives, you make your decisions calmly, silently, accurately. Number 9, people project their confusion onto you. They say you're complicated, hard to read, distant. But if we're being honest, you're not any of those things. You're just not simple. And that bothers people who expect everything and everyone to be easy to grasp in a glance. You think deeply, you feel deeply, you move through life with awareness most people avoid. That kind of depth makes people uncomfortable because it reflects back everything they've been ignoring in themselves. Instead of admitting that they don't understand you, they flip the script. They act like you're the one being difficult. But here's the truth. You're not hard to understand. You're just not surface level. You're layered, honest, sharp in thought but calm in presence. You don't explain yourself in a way that begs for acceptance. You don't water yourself down to meet people in shallow places, and that alone challenges them. You don't offer yourself in sound bites. You don't speak to impress. You speak to mean something. And if someone isn't willing to listen fully or think a little deeper, then they'll never really hear you. But that's not your burden to carry. It's not your job to shrink so others feel big enough to understand you. It's not your job to simplify your mind just so they can feel comfortable. Some people just aren't built to meet you where you are, and that's okay. Let them say what they want. Let them mislabel what they can't grasp. You're not confusing, you're just complete. You don't exist to be digested in pieces. You exist to be experienced in full. And only those who are willing to sit with your depth will ever earn the privilege of truly understanding you. Number 10. You don't broadcast your pain, you transmute it. You've never needed a spotlight to prove you've been through something. While others rush to tell their story before they've even healed, you move in silence. You take your pain and sit with it, break it apart, and learn from every sharp edge. You don't scream your scars into the world. You absorb the lesson, reshape it, and carry it as wisdom. That's not weakness. That's mastery. You've learned that not everyone deserves access to your wounds, not because you're cold, but because you're intentional. Pain is sacred to you. It's not content, it's transformation. You don't use it to gain sympathy or attention. You use it to evolve, quietly, privately, fully. While the world wants to be seen hurting, you'd rather be unseen healing. Your suffering never goes to waste. You alchemize it. You take heartbreak and turn it into discernment. Betrayal becomes clarity. Loneliness becomes strength. And no one sees the process because you're not performing, you're becoming. That's why people can't quite figure you out. They sense the depth, the heaviness that isn't heavy anymore. You walk with peace, but there's fire behind it. They see calm in your face, but not the storms you've survived, because you've made peace with your past without making a show of it. You don't spill, you refine, you don't bleed out, you rebuild. And that's what makes your presence feel different. You're not carrying pain, you're carrying the power it gave you. Number 11, you've mastered the art of walking away without a sound. No announcements, no drama, no explanations to soothe someone else's confusion. You just go, quietly, completely, and with a kind of finality that doesn't need to be loud to be felt. You've realized something most people never do. Not every exit needs to be explained, especially when your presence was never appreciated to begin with. People who needed you to break things down never really listened when you were speaking. They weren't paying attention when your energy shifted, when your tone changed, when your eyes stopped holding the same warmth. They only notice once the silence hits, and by then you're already gone. Closure is a luxury for the emotionally responsible. For people who showed up, listened, and cared while they had the chance. You've learned that most people want closure not to understand, but to keep access. They want one more conversation, not resolution, one more chance to spin the story in their favor. But you've outgrown the need to wrap things up in a neat bow. You don't owe anyone comfort in your leaving. When you walk away, it's because you've already tried, already watched the signs, already decided that your piece is too expensive to keep renting out. So you walk. No speeches, no last words. Just the weight of your absence and the clarity of your silence. And that silence, it echoes. It lingers in places words never could, because when you leave quietly, it forces people to sit with the one thing they spent the whole time avoiding, the truth. In final words, some minds aren't built to be followed, they're built to be felt. You were never meant to be a concept someone could sum up in a sentence. You're not a personality type. You're a whole world, a world that doesn't beg to be explored by just anyone. People try to study you like a map, hoping they'll find the road that leads to your core, but your roads change, your depth shifts. What they don't realize is that understanding you isn't something that can be achieved. It's something they have to earn. As a Sigma, you operate on a different frequency. You're not avoiding connection, you're protecting it. You're not silent because you have nothing to say. You're silent because not everyone deserves to hear what lives in your mind. You think deeper, move quieter, watch longer. And in a world that's obsessed with instant access, that makes you feel like the outlier, but you're not broken, you're precise. You don't owe anyone clarity if they aren't ready to sit with complexity. You don't have to simplify your soul so others can feel smart enough to read it. Being misunderstood doesn't mean you failed. It means you're not bending, so let them call you distant, let them call you intense. You're not here to be digestible, you're here to be real, and real doesn't always explain itself. Keep being you, unapologetically deep, unshakably self-aware, and beautifully difficult to define. Because the ones who truly see you will never need instructions. They'll feel you, and they'll stay. Thank you for watching, gents, and God bless you.